stuff.
So you got two meetings behind you, Jay. You got the public safety, and then you got the club on, meeting after that.
And he may need to leave, he may actually miss the club owner. He's got
He ain't
everything.
gonna, he ain't gonna know.
I told him I did him out there early.
Turn that
Say
that
what
way.
now?
I ain't shaved. I ain't.
That may be my fault. We're doing, I
I
think
ain't
we
gonna
public
fix my
safety
hair.
first thing club owners.
They're having trial docket over the
But
big
I think I
court,
got it.
and I didn't have anything for
No.
trial, so I was working in the office all day.
You can't go.
I got my pretty lips.
You can't go.
It really is my fault.
No.
Tomorrow, I have my
It's 8
signal,
o'clock.
I have to go misjudge.
When I got him to come, I had him backwards. I
That's
said,
right.
we're with the club owner.
Yeah,
And she can get first, but I had him backwards.
that's fine. We'll
But I think he's got me from there.
That's right.
Huh?
How do I get to teach someone to college?
What you got, man?
What you need is constitutional law,
Probably need that work.
business law,
Probably that business law, legal, social environment, stuff like that.
I stayed at the public 3 years of,
Why is that?
when my name got 3 years out of high
They're
school.
still ultimately trying to get it fixed.
That's why I look like this.
That's all right.
I didn't realize they had, we're gonna have spring football. I went out there and I watched.
But you say as they're renewing their license, for the most part, most have been complying with that, they're safety.
Yeah, it was contingent upon them receiving a license, that they turned that security clearance.
Awesome, awesome.
But, we'll put the ball in the court and ask them the last time, because that was their
Okay.
responsibility.
And then it's Paul, and then give it a little time, and then make sure I know. Who won't tell me everything?
Yeah, that's what we got the point of contact, and like I say, it's detailed right here, everything.
All right.
And just, you said they
What are you
violate,
talking about?
Thank you, T.
violate something you guys are looking at, they go in.
What's wrong?
I said if the club owners violate something, if y'all find a violation, they come before me.
No, I mean, tonight's more educational.
Oh, I ain't been talking to nobody else, chief.
Good beat, man.
I scared one of my boys plays football, though he's not a bad kid. But I was giving him a hard time about something. I said, yeah, you better look out, they just got $1 million grant. Clean up the city. He's like, what? Huh?
You need to take that into review on something you step out.
Yeah, me too.
Like I said, the questions asked, we have decided if any of those violations, it will come before you. Only one and the same.
Well, I ain't staying at the club. My folks on, y'all got this?
You got graduation.
No. Hey, we, our church doesn't meet on Wednesdays this time of year, pick up sometime in June. Me and my family, we meet.
Your church was so beat up Jesus.
No. No.
That was,
That was another church. There was a client and a friend that said, we need some more people. I got roped into it. Cause I kind of told them, no, I'm not doing anything there. Well, you did it for you, but you can't walk to City Hall and walk over. Yeah.
Good, how are you? Good to see you.
Hey, Chief. How you doing, man? You doing all right? I'm doing pretty good.
last time you kind of were hobbling around with that? I think you had some kind
With my ankles.
of foot issue.
Oh, yeah. It's hard to believe that was almost a year ago. Don't get old like me, man. Woke up in the morning, my knee was bothering me, I don't even know what I did.
Yeah. The three you swung in was passed with 8
Good deal.
They were top of the class.
I don't know what that is. Top class, I don't know what that is. I guess I was always looking up.
They graduated with honors.
Good deal. Oh, that's awesome. I graduated, thank the Lord, from high school all the way to law school.
Yes, sir.
I don't even know why I'm here.
Really.
Last time I showed up, these things, I got hand buzzed.
Really.
I don't see how y'all do it. All this flips, all this stuff. Y'all deal with those jail pods?
Every once in a while.
Yeah, I got to know him through football at school last fall.
Did the new fire truck ever get outfitted? I know they ordered this stuff, or supposedly, did that ever get outfitted? The new-
We're currently waiting on the equipment to come in right now.
So.
Equipment's been ordered.
It's been ordered.
Yes, sir. It's
They don't
on its
know-
way.
They don't know a turnaround time on it, or, I guess they custom order all that stuff.
Yes, sir.
They waiting on a check? Are they waiting on a check?
I'm not sure.
And I understand that you can't, say, but I try to make sure I get all my facts right.
Yes, sir. Just to let you know, we have ordered the equipment. And,
I know a lot, at one time, we had a bunch of stuff ordered, but when the PO got downstairs, it held up as, no PO on that order was to actually get paid to ship it, so.
yes, sir.
You know how all this works.
We just received a ventilation saw for that truck, so pieces are coming in as they come in. So
When you get this done, if you would like to showcase it, if you let me know, I'll come by and showcase it for you.
Hello. How are you?
Hey,
I can say that you speak to us. I can say that you speak to us. Oh.
Unless you get invited.
Wait. That's protocol. Well, I understand that.
Y'all, my keeper seat, how are you?
Hey, Chief.
how you?
Fine, Chief. Good to see you.
Jamie and Susan. But I know Susan can be there. She mentioned it, So I'm gonna try to multitask again. Do the minutes also.
didn't get no email from me about today, did you?
What?
That email you about the meeting today? No, I make myself a note. See.
No, I do take shorthand, I do shorthand also.
You really write it, read
My secretary just,
And I don't know why I'm
hey,
on that.
hey, my secretary just had a problem reading.
it? I don't even think they teach.
No why.
I'm still waiting on that obituary.
Okay.
I thought it was gonna come in today.
Look at that.
It might come in tomorrow.
Look at that. Well, one thing I learned about being a councilman, I learned about punctuality. 5 o'clock? Good evening, how you doing? Let me thank everyone for coming out to the Public Safety Committee meeting. At this time, anyone would like to lead us in prayer?
I'll do the prayer.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Let's pray. Father, thank you for this day and this opportunity to come together. Lord, thank you for the community leaders. We ask that you bless them, watch over them, give them guidance and wisdom, Lord. Let everything we do here today bring glory and honor to you and your Son, who died for our sins. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chief. Councilwoman
Hi,
Thomas, I want to
How
have a
you
seat.
doing?
all right, how you doing?
How you doing, Mr. Thomas?
You have a copy of it?
I got one, thank you.
As stated before, we have an array of issues that we need to talk about at the, as it relates to public safety. Everyone has an agenda. Okay. Well, basically, the overview of the meeting we would get updates from, our chief of police about, the items listed and any other items that he would like to put forth. But I think the council made a great move on last night when we voted for the SRO officers to be in the schools. Like on last night, I did commend the police department for last week at Selma High, what could have turned into something more catastrophic than it did. But, you know, the police department put forth the effort to minimize the risk. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Collier and any public safety updates that you would like to give.
First, let me recognize Agent Susan Smith is here with us from the Attorney General's office, and walking in is Dwight Brown. Dwight, you are the RAC?
Yes.
Say that right? He's the resident agent in charge with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and has been an invaluable partner for us as we combat gun crime in Selma. As far as updates, I updated the council on, and President Bowie just briefly mentioned we had intelligence of a possible active shooter event at the school. Like in any event like that, afterwards, we're going to do a hot wash or an after action. So we identified some things that we did right, and we identified some things that we did wrong. Most importantly, there was really good cooperation with the school system, both with the principal and with the superintendent. But it's going to lead to some additional training that's further on down the agenda. From a crime standpoint, we're at the midway point of the year, and unfortunately, we've had 3 homicides this year. I don't like to talk about numbers because the only acceptable number is 0. But percentage-wise, that is down tremendously when compared to 2017 and 2015, which were 2 really bad years. Of the 3 homicides, we have solved 2, and the 3rd, we are close. Dwight, shortly, is going to talk about an initiative that's going to assist us greatly in combating gun crime in Selma. as we move forward. That will not just help us with homicides, but additionally with shootings in general. I know the problem is not solved, but hopefully you're noticing a decrease in the amount of shots fired in the community. There is some technological advances that are ongoing. They're law enforcement sensitive, so we can't necessarily discuss them, but what I can tell you is that I've seen the fruit of the labor of that product, and it works. And that, along with access to a portable Niven van here. And if you're not familiar with Niven, for lack of a better word, the way I describe it from a layman's standpoint, that's kind of the fingerprint system of shell casings when you're dealing with firearms. And of course, Dwight's an expert in that, and he can talk a little bit more about that. But when you consider that Selma has its own Niven van, only one in the state, Dwight, at least for the moment?
Yes.
So that shows the amount of commitment that we're getting from our federal partners. And most importantly, I'll touch on it, Mr. President, then if you want to talk about it in depth. If you saw the media or if you were there yesterday, an emergency grant was awarded to Selma to deal with the violent crime problems that we're dealing with. It laid out 4 measurable pillars that we want to accomplish. That was based off 2015 data. The most important thing, along with this grant, is a $1 million appropriation. So, as the leader of 3 local law enforcement agencies, myself, Sheriff Grantham, and Michael Jackson, the DA and head of the 4th Judicial Drug Task Force, met individually and then as a group to express what our priorities were to utilize this funding. And I feel very good about Selma's needs and the opportunity to get some of the equipment that we need to address some of the public safety issues. So with that, Mr. Chairman, at least for the public safety update, I'll wrap that part up.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the Citizens Review Committee. Chief, Councilwoman Thomas, do you have any questions? On the public safety updates in general.
Yeah. I have one question that I get questioned all the time about, I asked you that question before, and I'm gonna ask you again, because we have a lot of people in the community feels that some of the loved ones, has passed on, got murdered and stuff like that, and they feel like some of them been like prospered 2 years, some of them been longer, and they are saying that, do we have someone here that is looking into trying to find some of the murders that, some people, they're still grieving. And they, they talk to me a lot, and I said I was gonna ask you in the next public safety meeting,
Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman, there's this kind of 2 solutions. I'll let Dwight speak to what they're working towards as a task force, and they is collaborative, because we're partnering with that and we have an officer assigned to that. Secondly, I am at least in the initial conversation with Sheriff Grantham about working towards a cold case squad utilizing retired law enforcement officers. If we go that route, we don't have to pay legacy costs, fringe benefits, and there's already been an expressed interest from quite a few. But we're just in the beginning stages of that. That's something I did during my tenure at LEA. And that does not, every case is important, as you know. Some of these cases date back all the way to 09.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you,
right.
some of the citizens.
So the code case, if we could work this out, and I believe we can, Sheriff Grantham seems supportive, the cold case squad could work towards the fresh eyes on older cases. A lot of times reveals evidence that maybe was missed. Secondly, there is an ongoing task force that's looking at some more recent unsolved crimes. And there's been progress made, and I don't know how much of it's law enforcement sensitive, so I'm gonna be careful to, what I say, but I can tell you there's been progress made on cases that we do not feel were handled properly or with the amount of diligence, and there's been indictments made as a result of that. Just because you don't see it in the paper doesn't mean it's not going on. I can tell you that it is happening. But that's two possible solutions that we're working towards.
And can I ask you this?
Sure.
Like some of the victims' family members, were saying that if they, will get more response on update on the cases of their loved ones, they feel more, that the city is concerned. Yeah, and because a lot of them, were saying that, they never hear anything, and they want to feel like that, how family want to follow up to see, where they at.
Sure. That is not a new complaint. So one of the solutions to that is we have cross-trained one of our investigators who is both a chaplain for the department, a grief counselor for our officers, but also to follow up with family members. Last week we had a pretty devastating case. There was no malice involved, unfortunately. It was a suicide, and media-wise, we generally don't talk about suicides, Adam. But I'm not going to tell you what your policy is, but I'm going to tell you what ours is. She was in place. She was our conduit to the family, and it really worked. So she just completed her training, and we think that will help.
Also, too, I think prior to you coming on the council, Councilwoman Thomas, we have a reward fund. I think it's $3,000, leading to the arrest of anyone who's apprehended for a crime. I think we have talked about that, Chief. Would it be possible maybe we can go back and maybe do some public service announcement just to refresh it,
And I think for the next work session, Mr. President, I've got a couple recommendations that I would like to bring before the council.
Okay.
And I agree, and I can also mention on my radio show that hey, the council has this as a possibility. But the next work session, I intend to bring two forward.
And I appreciate that you're saying that because, it will make the citizen, the loved ones that have lost their family member, that you're still working on it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Councilman LaShaw? Councilman Johnson? All right. Next item, Citizens Review Board. This is a board that Chief Collier and I have been talking about for a little bit over a year. I can honestly say at first I was adamant opposed to a Citizens Review Board, but with the Citizens Review Board, it's more along the lines of building a strong relationship between the community and the police, not to regulate or try to oversee the day-to-day operation of the police department. And also, I asked each council member if they would relegate a member from your ward, because I think Councilman Johnson has already given me a name. Councilman LaShaw, I think you have also. And it's going to be made up of people from the wards and hopefully some retired law enforcement and someone from mental health. Because last night the council presented a resolution making that the month of May as Mental Health Awareness Month. That's a resolution that was passed. And some of these issues that we're facing in the criminal justice system ties back to mental health. And that seems to have been the missing piece in a lot of this crime that is occurring. But we would definitely move forward with the Citizen Review Committee, probably have our meeting prior to the next council meeting, and I think we need to set some, mission statement, goals and objectives of how we want to move forward with it. I think Councilman Thomas, hopefully you will be giving me a name for someone from your ward, so we can just go ahead and finalize. And like I said too, it's important that we make the connection with the law enforcement and the community. After we just received the weed and seed part of it, and this can be part of the seeding side of the weed and seed, because it's important that the community and the police officer, and the police department, and sheriff department have a working, understanding relationship, and hopefully the Citizens Review Committee would be part of this, coming up with ideas, how we can foster a community together. Like I said before, not trying to tell the chief or the captains what to do, but fun days or whatever we can do to try to alleviate some of the friction that's going on in the community, but stay away from the policy side of the SPD. Chief?
Well, as part of that, if we do nothing else, and I know we'll do more than this, we recently did our first Bridging the Gap. We brought in 34 students from Selma High School, and spent a morning of interacting with the Selma Police Department. The FBI was also involved. Use scenarios. Part of it was to educate those high school students of what we expect as law enforcement officers, put them in some real world scenarios, and to kind of open some eyes up. And I'm not saying we have to follow that model, but if we have this committee, it can be the conduit to help put information out to the community. The misconception of, and this is big in Bridging the Gap, the misconception of, why did he shoot the gun out of his hand? Or why did he shoot him in the leg? Law enforcement is trained to shoot to stop a threat. So those type things, and I think that would be a good use of the review committee, and I think it would be important to put regular citizens on it as well, and then also for fresh ideas that I can bounce off of, or they can bring forward to me.
Also, maybe they can help, with far as with recruitment of officers. If you have a recruitment fair, maybe you can take someone from the Citizens Review Committee out to try to help, recruit some officers, because 9 times out of 10, most times people go into a career or field based on who they trust and who they feel comfortable with. So that can be another avenue that we can also look at, with the Citizens Review Board. And I know Brother Brooks is going to also, he may be saying no now, but be part of the Citizens Review Board also, right? Thank you. Any other comments about the Citizens Review Board?
Mr. President, would it be proper, we probably need, do we need to adopt that in a resolution?
We can.
Okay.
Along with the names, once we get the names and
names, okay.
everything, we'll go ahead and move forward with a resolution. Like I say, it's important that we have the mission statement and the purpose, goals, and objectives.
Okay.
Prior to moving on, and it may be a good idea also if we have a workshop or some team building as part of the Citizen Review Committee.
I have a question.
Shoot.
How many people are you allowed to have on that?
I would probably say roughly maybe about
I'm talking about out of our
One.
area,
One.
just one?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh,
Because I want each ward represented, because each ward has their own set of problems and different dynamics, as it relates to crime in the ward and everything. But go ahead.
The reason why I asked you that, because when you have, you might have two sides, like divided. On the west side, and you have the other side, near Summerfield. And the person that I want to place, she's not connected with the whole entire, the area. She's not connected, she's just only with the other side. And, you have to get somebody that's.
Well, in a case like that, I guess you could add an ex officio for the ward where.
See, that's what
we
I-
don't want to make it too big,
No, I'm just saying I couldn't place her. She wants to be a part of it, but she doesn't know anything about the other side of town. So you're saying put someone on the committee that's,
Well, I hope they'll be well rounded, you know.
well, I
Within
just
the
want
board,
to,
you know.
I try to be fair to both of them.
Sometimes you have to meet, you know, you have the gist of the board, whether, you know, but we would definitely look into that. That's a problem that I never thought of, but,
Well, I have that problem.
okay, I would definitely look into it and see how we can do to move forward with that. Never thought of it though, but that's something I can be a footnote, I can put, okay. Anything else, Councilman Shaw? Any problem with anyone selection in your ward? Councilman Johnson?
No, but I understand what Councilman Thomas saying, because, you know, I got, basically two wards, but I understand, we do that, it may be more than we need, because, you know, I got GWC home, and then I got East Selma. And, you know, they're two separate, you know,
Yeah.
so, but I did chose one I feel I can do both, you know, but I understand exactly what you're saying, but if we can't have two, you know, I think I got one can handle all of it.
Okay. That's what I said too, we could just rotate, you know, rotate.
That's what
Not
I'm
saying a time limit on, the appointment time on the review committee. Maybe we just rotate on and off, but it's important that we keep the continuity of the, citizen review board active and also engaging. All right. Chief of Public Safety, James?
President, I feel like we covered that for the most part in the briefing. I will tell you this week, in addition to the event at the school, in a partnership with ATF and the DEA and the AG's office, we arrested two individuals that were wanted both by Selma PD on felonies and by the federal government on felonies. And both of those missions were very successful. So there's two more individuals that are, we would consider in the leadership of the criminal activity that's going on in Selma.
Yeah. And also too, we looked at a grant on yesterday, I submitted,
Yeah.
there's a mental health component of law enforcement and mental health. Chief, you know, we're gonna get together and try to submit that grant also. Like I said, so long, the mental health piece has been missing, you know, as it relates to the criminal justice part and also with the criminals. So that's gonna be another grant that we will be writing for. And the deadline is, I think it's May 31st. So we're definitely within the next week or so, we will be writing that grant and submitting it.
And that was also listed in what I submitted to the U.S. Attorney's Office as far as training for our officers. It was mental health and de-escalation and dealing with those who are mentally ill and law enforcement contact. So we'll have to identify some subject matter experts to help with that training. Doesn't mean we won't move forward with the grant, of course, but there's two funding possibilities for
Okay.
that. So I think that's going to happen.
Okay. Also, I'd like to recognize our world famous DA, DA Jackson. Thank you.
How y'all doing?
Doing fine. Thank you for coming tonight. Councilwoman Thomas, I see your hand up.
Oh, yes. I wait till you get to this, I wait.
To which one?
It was dealing with, it was something, but I was gonna ask a question, but I'm gonna wait till you get down here to the public safety in the community.
Okay, all right, that's no worries. Chief, National Night Out?
National Night Out this year is August 4th, which is going to be right around the start of the school year. I've been meeting with President Bowie and some others, and we want to do this probably larger than we've done it in the past. Of course, we'll leave it to the leadership to determine a location, but we're starting the planning now, and then as we get a little closer, we'll start doing at least bi-monthly leading up to the days and weekly meetings for this. Is everyone familiar with National Night Out?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we want it to be the biggest it's ever been in Selma this year. That's the goal. So that's why we're starting now.
Also, too, we're gonna be writing local businesses asking for donations. We wanted to make it, you know, that's part of the weed and seed concept also. Far as for refreshments, and hopefully Agent Brown, you can come up and be with us on that. See what we can do on that event. But this is something that we've been looking at for the last 2 or 3 months, making preparation for it, because it's important that the communities engage with the law enforcement, not only with the police department, fire department, sheriff, state troopers, and also the first responders.
I also think, Mr. President, it's important this year, I think it's been maybe hit and miss in the past. I think we've got to engage the private high schools as well to be involved, or the private schools as a whole to be involved with the National Night Out as well.
Okay, good idea. All right. Any other comments, questions about the National Night Out? Any other? Councilwoman Thomas.
We talk about the National Night Out, but we have to get the people we have to talk about it here. Because a lot of people wants to come. And like you said, we need to have a place where people, can feel that they're safe and comfortable coming out that night.
Also, I think it's important too, because I think it's 2 events for National Night Out. I know it's one August 4th, there's another in October 9th, October 10th. But with the August 4th, it's getting close to school time, still have daylight saving time. And October we're dealing with football, and it's getting dark earlier. So it would be very important that, like I say, we use social media. If you would, council members, just promote it in your wards, at your upcoming ward meetings, public service announcement, whatever we need to do, because we want to make it a big event where you can have an opportunity to talk with first responders. And it could be a time that you may want to recruit.
Yes, yes.
Next, we have active shooting training.
As part of the hot wash from last week's event, or the after action, last year we did a tabletop exercise, and if you're not familiar with tabletops, it's where you run the scenario from a command staff standpoint, really at a tabletop. It's literally what you explained. What we're going to push for at the beginning of the school year, we haven't announced a date, but I have engaged with the superintendent about a full-scale active shooter scenario. I think that's necessary, it's needed. That does not mean the school system did not do something properly the other day. But I think last week, which is the very same day that we dealt with it, there was a real active shooter in Colorado on the 20th anniversary of Columbine. That's one of those events you cannot overtrain for. So we'll work towards a date for an active shooter training scenario. Secondly, I'm checking on that normally qualifies for funding through EMA. So I'm trying to work a funding process for that as well. It's not a high dollar event, but that is generally what we're into, EMA or Homeland Security grants. So I'm trying to get the dollars for that as well.
Also too, working with, the superintendent, and also too, Chief, we probably need to check with the principal or whoever, superintendent, because each year, I know each school has to submit a security plan to the state. And I think it's important that the police department, sheriff department should have a copy of the plan that they submit to the state, so if it were to occur, you can know, doors being locked and stuff like that. So that's something we definitely need to get a copy of, the security plan that they submit to the state, because I know they have to submit a security plan to the state Department of Education every year. And I think that should be part of, in the police department, also the sheriff's department.
I think up until recently, by school board, by previous vote, they had to upload it into Virtual Alabama, both full plans and their emergency plans. But it's my understanding Virtual Alabama is no longer operating the way it should. So we'll go back to the, I don't want to say the old way, because there's nothing wrong with it, where we will have their emergency action plan as well as their blueprints. I can tell you, in the event the other day, as I got on scene and established a command, first thing I asked for was a floor plan, and the principal had it within seconds. So that's good. A lot of high schools, I'm just gonna be honest, you know, this is part of what I dealt with. I used to work in Homeland Security. They would have to go dig it out of a file somewhere and knock the dust off of it. He had it ready, laid it down on the table in front of me, and that was impressive. But you're right, we need to have that beforehand.
And that's the trend of the nation now. All schools all over America are having these drills. I'm seeing it almost every day on cable news. So it's a good thing that we're gonna adopt that here.
Yeah, we have that courthouse.
You do, okay,
Yeah, drills in different courthouses across the circuit.
good.
What happens, active shooting,
And I think we need to also involve, you know, ambulance, you know, care service, the whole gamut.
Do a full scale.
Full scale of it. And I guess we'll probably get with the superintendent, because we had talked about it, go ahead on, probably prior to school, or I mean, getting in or what.
I think over the summer, we'll need to go ahead and establish a date. And, you know, when you do a drill, you do a scenario, you want to be prepared, but you don't want to be so prepared that you're not actually testing your capabilities. So it's probably something as far as selecting a date and what all is going to be involved, probably needs to be kept at the macro level to really test your capabilities. We've done some weather testing here that never went below the captain level in the police department. And that's how you really test what your capabilities are. So, I mean, they're already getting a heads up, us talking about it, but we'll work with Dr. Williams and with the principal about a full-scale active shooter scenario. And I do know last year, Southside had reached out. You know, for us, Southside's right on the border of our police jurisdiction. It's right outside. We don't mind. It's probably something we'll have to partner with Dallas County. We're going to be the tactical team to respond. Dallas County doesn't have a tactical team, so maybe see how this one goes, and then work with the sheriff's office to work towards doing it on the south side as well.
DA, if you can help in that endeavor, we look forward to bringing you to the table also. We'll bring you to the table also with the active shooting, drill we're gonna do at the school. If you can help.
Yeah, we done had trainers come in and do a whole presentation on what we need to do, something like that after. We've done it at each courthouse. So if y'all need somebody to put the train on, let me know. We'll round them up. They do it for free with us.
We need you to be a role player.
We need you to be a role player.
As long as they can put the helm on their head.
Okay. Next, public safety in the community. I met with the fire department, also the police department, and the municipal court. The next few weeks, we're gonna be going into communities, setting up hot dogs, giving away sodas, engaging with the youth in the community, and also in various wards throughout, having motivational speakers to come by, talk about making, you know, good choices and decisions. We have been talking about the chief, you know, the fire department, and also we have the two judges here that's going to be part of that. And once I took over as public safety chair, I want to include also the municipal court as part of the public safety, because there are some issues that they deal with, and it falls upon public safety. Anything you'd like to add to that, Chief or Councilwoman Thomas?
Well, that's good. Based on what you're saying, they're gonna come out into the community.
Very good voice here.
And also, I would just like to talk about this. With that 911, that is a problem that we have in the city. When people call for I know is it run through, the county?
It's separate 911, and I forgot about inviting Tracy over here as part of the committee meeting, but the next time, I would definitely invite him, because 911, a lot of times they think it runs into the police department, but no, it's a separate entity. It's up under the sheriff's department, to run the 911. Anything? Go ahead,
It's
Councilman.
still on public safety, chief.
Yes.
You know, I talked to you several times about Institute roadblocks.
Yes, sir.
You know, catching these thugs off guard, chief, will, I can assure you, the roadblocks, we're gonna get alcohol, we're gonna get firearms, we're gonna get drugs. We're gonna note those drivers that ride around with dealer's tags with no insurance. I think roadblock can bring about a real challenge to the criminal element in our community. And I would hope and pray that that's still on the docket.
It actually is, Councilman, you know, in my background as a trooper, doing safety checkpoints is I mean, it's part of the lifeblood of being a trooper. Anytime we do a saturation detail, we select locations. There are clear guidelines you gotta follow, and I used to recite them. It has to be neutral and arbitrary. It has to be an established pattern. Judge, you may know. Anyway, it came up in our LECC committee meeting, and I'm gonna get a little more guidance from one of the assistant U.S. attorneys. But please know, anytime we do a saturation detail, and that's when it's not just us, it's SBI, it's the Highway Patrol, it's the 4th Judicial, it's the 17th Judicial. Part of that, anytime we're doing the operations plan for that, we're including checkpoints, safety checkpoints in that. In saying that, we could do more. Our warrants are at a point, and I think we can serve a lot of warrants that way. We have a high number of warrants that we've got to get resolved.
Are these best warrants because they had showed up for?
They range from warrants out of municipal court to felony warrants. One of the guys made a traffic stop last night, and a pretty substantial felony warrant in Shelby County. But we have more than our share of our own as well.
You probably with these roadblocks, we're gonna get more. So.
I totally agree with you.
Also with the roadblock, would that be through the JAG grant?
We can pay overtime through the JAG grant to do that, and it's really important. I mean, a roadblock is, if we're in a manhunt or hunt for someone, we're doing safety inspections. You know, we're checking for driver's license, we're checking for insurance, and make sure you wear your safety belt. And if something's unusual, of course, we're going to do an NCIC or a let's check for alcohol. But yes, sir, we can use our overtime to do that.
I think rather than using overtime, of course, overtime money would be fine, but rather than take a patrolling officer off their beat, I think we can utilize the Fourth Judicial Task Force for that. And I do that.
Well, in the past, when we've done these saturation details, they've been involved, and they've been involved in including the operation, developing the ops plan, and they've been involved in doing that. The only downside to safety checkpoints is it's one of the most dangerous things a law enforcement officer can do, standing out there in the road. And I can tell you, I've had people that I've worked with in my career that had their careers ended being hit out there. So safety is always of the utmost. But I totally agree with you. It's still the trooper in me. You can resolve a lot of the issues you have by doing that. I commit to you, we'll see more of those this summer. We're coming up on a click it or ticket period for Memorial Day, and two things I promise you're going to see during that. You're going to see our motors, and you're going to see more safety equipment checkpoints.
I have one more question to ask you about. This is dealing with, in the community with public safety with the alarm system. When is it connected to the police department?
No, ma'am. It's normally connected through a national carrier. and then the carrier notifies 911, who in turn notifies us. I checked, I didn't check this previous meeting, but the meeting prior to that, we actually went up. We're catching 11 alarm calls a day in a 24-hour period. Now, our calls for service have gone down from October, we were around 100, we're in the 60s. When you consider 11 of those calls are alarms, I still think it's something through the proper subcommittee.
Well,
I don't know which one that hits.
Well, basically, I collect some ordinances from other municipalities as it relates to a set amount of alarms going off, false alarms. That could be something that we can look at the Public Safety Committee at our next meeting, but I just wanted to go ahead and get the information. But several cities, a certain amount of false alarms that goes off, they charge, you know, for $15, $20. But we have about 4 or 5 ordinances that I have, and I would definitely bring forth to the committee to see if that's something that we may want to move towards. I don't know, but I think it's important that this committee needs to look out and hammer out the logistical things to see how we need to move forward with the input from the chief to make sure we are going in the right direction.
Well, my question to, the reason why I asked him that was that alarm, dealing with in the school system, and when the break-ins, the alarm be going off, and it's like a certain time, whoever calls for the 911 to come to assist, and if the alarm is going off for 3 hours, do they have to wait till someone comes to open to let them in?
Yeah, well, when that alarm call goes out, so we're gonna get a call from, let's say ADT. I'm just using throwing a company out there. They're gonna notify us if a key holder is en route or not. If the key holder is not en route, we don't have the ability to go in the building. So we're gonna check the perimeter. We have an open door, we have a busted window, then we're gonna enter. We're probably gonna use a K9 to enter, but we're gonna enter. Without a key holder being en route, and I know which event you're talking about, that alarm did go off for that amount of time. But without a key holder, all we can do is secure the perimeter. And the overwhelming majority of alarm calls in the school system, overwhelming majority is not the right description. 99.99% in the school system are situations where teachers are leaving late. I mean, there's no malice, and they don't remember the password. A lot of times the alarm company's gonna call, and they're gonna want a password. If you don't know the password, they're gonna contact us. So we go, and it's generally a teacher coming out, working late. So my recommendation, I've been a proponent of, there's gotta be, at some point, because in some instances, on some days, we're dealing with the same alarm 6, 7 times a day. I don't know what the right ordinance is. I'll leave that up to the wisdom of the council and President Bowie, but I do think there has to be something out there when you start getting into the 5th or 6th false alarm. Secondly, if we're going to be dispatched, I think it's only fair that the requirement is a key holder needs to be en route as well, where we can get in the building and search.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, we have four ordinances already that looking at with other municipalities in the area, and I would definitely bring forth at our next public safety meeting. And I think it's a small fee, anywhere from $15 to $25, if it goes off 5 or 6 times.
No.
Go ahead.
It wasn't about the going off, it's about the being, when the alarm goes off, when someone is already broke in, and the timing of someone coming or someone getting there.
What I would recommend is, as we look at these other ordinances, is maybe a requirement for a key holder to be en route. Because I'll tell you, sometimes the key holder is frustrated with the amount of false alarms too, and they'll just say, no, we're not coming. Well, there's only so much we can do. We don't have a kicked-in door or a window that's been shattered. We're going to check the perimeter, say the perimeter's secure. So that may need to be considered as well.
Thank you. Next, we have our fire chief, Chief Graham. Any updates you'd like to bring up?
Yes, sir. Currently, Selma Fire Department has 24 firefighters that are employed in the operations level. And of those 24 positions, there are 2 battalion chiefs, and there's 1 personnel that's on FMLA leave. So that leaves us with only 21 personnel to divide between 4 fire stations and 3 shifts. It's been addressed over a year ago, and also during recent public safety meeting, that we're struggling with manpower issues. We're at the critical stage of closing the fire station due to the fact that we cannot hold enough men over to cover the manpower that's needed to be placed on the fire trucks. We've been switching personnel back and forth on the rescue truck just to keep up the demand on our call incidents, and this is an unsafe practice. And we cannot continue to do that. We've lost 53% of our manpower in the department. In the past 3 weeks, I've been working as an interim fire chief. I've been trying to work out a solution as to what we could do so that the citizens of Selma can be covered for fire protection, at the same time trying to keep firefighters from leaving our department. We're losing firefighters at an alarming rate due to being overworked and not enough pay. It's not an easy choice to make, and it's not something that needs to be continued on a permanent basis. Station 5 will need to be closed on a temporary basis beginning tomorrow.
Where is Station 5?
Station 5 is north,
Cedar Park.
on Woodger Avenue.
Cedar Park.
That fire department goes?
How, I mean, I guess it's a difficult situation, but if we close Station 5, how would it have an impact on our ISO?
Well, if we can temporarily just shut it down temporarily until we can get our manpower shortages taken care of, possibly get that station back open. Problem is trying to keep those guys in the station, at the fire department. We're not the only departments running into that issue. Prattville has an issue with it. Montgomery has an issue with it. All the departments over the state of Alabama are running into the same issue. Our problem is that we're having guys that are working 48 hours all the time. They're not having enough downtime to actually spend time with family. And what we're running into is we got 3 shifts, A shift, a B shift, and a C shift. And for a minimum manpower standpoint, we need to have at least 15 men to be on those trucks. And when you're running C shift with 7 men, and you're running A shift with 5 men, and you're pulling off a C shift, all 7 guys to work 48 hours to cover A shift, you only have 12 men. And we don't have enough men to actually run the fire trucks like we need to.
And also with that fatigue factor, working overtime, that's a liability for the city also.
Yes, sir. This is setting in critical mental and fatigue, physical fatigue for our guys.
So chief, temporary closing, and I think that's the operative word, temporary.
Yes, sir.
Because our goal is to get it back over quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yes, sir.
How much relief will this bring about on your manpower now?
Well, if I redirect the manpower that we have that are at Station 5, which is 2 men on C shift and 2 men on B shift, that's 4 guys that we can rotate into the other stations where the vacancies are at. So it's going to help to, of course, I got some other things I want to discuss with y'all as well that I'm working on. It'll be able to let 3 to 4 guys go home, on each shift.
Mr. Chair, I don't think we have a choice.
Councilman Thomas, is that your hand?
Yes, I'm relating to what he said. Some of the firefighters came to some of the council they was talking about that they did not, like he said, they don't have time, they've been working a lot of overtime, and they didn't have time to spend time with their family. We met with several of them call us and wanted to talk with us about the situation what he's talking about. And a lot of them feels, you know, that they, like he said, they're not getting enough money. And when you work over that many hours, you know, you get tired. And they be burnt out when they go home, they have kids and stuff. So maybe, hopefully, some of them, we had a couple of them that called back that had left, talked to me and Councilmama Jackson. Maybe things will work out that maybe some of them probably come back because of some changes might be bringing in to get, we need firefighters. We definitely need them.
What is, before I go to Councilman Johnson, what is the max, you all have, Chief Graham, as far as what's in your budget for firefighters?
Well, as a minimum right now, I know, you know, we can put 45 total, so we can possibly get up to 24 back in place. But the problem that we're gonna run into, and y'all gotta understand that they're specialized certifications that they have to have in order to move into the next steps. As, say, a driver. A driver has to have a certain amount of time. Once he comes out of fire college, he's only a basic firefighter. So there's other certifications and things that he's got to get required in order to move up in that. So a problem right now is that once we hire these guys in, they've got to get the level of training in order to move up to the next step. So right now, there's 7 lieutenant slots that are open that cannot be filled because our 6 slots that are open for sergeant can't be filled because there's not any firefighters to move into that sergeant slot. So, you know, that's the kind of issue that we're going to run into.
What we may have to do is just reclassify maybe?
There possibly may be some changes in our SOGs that I've been looking at that instead of a 1 year, possibly going back to a 6 month. So it's not holding us back for a whole year to try to get somebody who's qualified to drive a fire truck. So
What's the SOG?
it's a standard operating guideline that being
And let me ask you too, before I go to Councilman Johnson and Councilman Short. If we have a firefighter who may want to rejoin the department, after a year, do they have to be recertified?
Well, here's one of the, and I'm gonna discuss that on the next thing that I've got
Okay.
with that.
Hold on, I'll tell you, I'm gonna let them answer the question. Councilman Johnson and Councilman Short, and then you can follow with the question I just
Thank you,
asked.
Mr. President. I think you answered a lot from Council Tom. I think you said some of us the pay. Was there anything else besides the pay, Chief? Did all of them leave, you know, gradually, or they left at one time? Or is there something else besides the pay why they left? Or
they're working that 48 hour. I mean, they're there 24 and they have to turn them back around and be held for 24 hours again to cover the next shift.
that's when we was at the max?
Sure.
That when we was at the max with the workers, there was too many hours they were working at that particular time when we had all that. I'm not speaking of now, and I know they were working now because it's short, but I'm saying when we was up to the 50 something, the problem was what, financing?
Pay was an issue because Selma is one of the last departments. I don't know how many other departments are out there that are just straight within firefighting. You've got departments like Brightville that runs EMS departments, you know, inside their fire department. So they're able to pay them $10,000 more than what we're actually getting paid. So until we can come up to that level, they're gonna be leaving our city.
But Mr. President, when we did that increase in pay with the police back, did the fire department got that increase up?
It did, I think it moved them up to 30 starting off, 28?
28,642 is approximately where they're at right now. So, but you look at Prattville, you know, running the EMS department out there, they're paying those guys like $37,000 a year, so.
And that's what some of our officers going out to other cities.
Because
They're
looking at other cities, the mid-pay is
Yeah.
starting mid-30s, 35 in that area. Also, too, to follow, Chief Brown, that you mentioned, we talked about paramedics, you know, the city taking over its own paramedics with the, fire department. It was a discussion that we had over a year ago. Is it something that you can bring to us, how we may want to move towards that?
I think there's a
Hold
possibility.
on, Councilman Short, and we can talk to that, Councilman.
Chief Curry, you mentioned, we need this Station 5 closed tomorrow.
Yeah.
So my question would be, I'm talking about protocol, right? Does this have to be a recommendation coming from the judge to us? We can't give them an answer tonight. So it's almost like it's a state of emergency. So my question, Mr. President, would the mayor have to bring in a recommendation to us? So maybe,
The mayor and also the chief.
yeah, maybe a special call meeting.
Could be something we can do.
Would be something to give the chief an answer, because I don't think we gonna be able to close it effective tomorrow, because he's not gonna be properly authorized.
I wish it would have been, you know, when we had the meeting last night.
Yeah, we had got an email.
Yeah, we got an email.
We had got an email on it.
Some of it just came forth, you know, just.
So Chief, the president's gonna be looking at maybe getting you an answer quick, fast, in a hurry. But I truly understand your situation, and I think the operative word is temporary, because we do need to build up our fire and police department, but they're gonna need additional resources that we don't have. So the only option that we have is to look at ways of bringing in new revenues, and for whatever reason, this council is perhaps definitely dodging that. Maybe in reality, they ought to come to a term, they really got to bend over and realize that we need the money.
When I get the totality of the finances,
To make
then I
sure,
will see.
to make sure the citizen of Selma is given the quality services that they so richly deserve, and the citizen deserve the best.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree.
Anything else, Chief? I think you need to follow up on the questions.
I think the issue that we're gonna run into, Councilman Lee Shore, is that we're not gonna have enough men to cover that fire truck tomorrow.
So it's a state of emergency, Mr. President.
So, you say that again? You said you're not gonna have enough men to cover the fire truck at Station 5? Is it for Station 5?
Yes, ma'am.
So you only have 4 guys over there?
They're on A shift. There's a total of 5 men that are on that shift. And we've got a guy that actually his last day was today.
So he's leaving?
He is what I'm trying to do is keep him on as part-time. Temporarily, he said that he has a class that he is actually going to go through, and when he gets through his class, he's going to come back as full-time.
Mr. President, I got a recommendation. It's 2 minutes to 6. If we declare we're gonna call an emergency meeting tomorrow by 6 o'clock, we will be in the, within the law of the 24 hours to address this issue, and I think that's what we need to do.
Anything else?
Sir, notice you, special call meeting, Mr. President?
I can send that through text. Anything else? Follow up, anything else, Chief?
Yes, sir. As this Station 5 is closed, the territory lines and the coverage area for Station 5 can be picked up from Station 3. And I looked at Station 5's run calls, and that they are less than all the other stations that we have, and that's why we looked at Station 5. And like I said, we at this point, we've got to regroup, we've got to restructure, and I have spoken to the senior staff members in the department, and also, before I made this decision, I have also spoken with the mayor on the issue. So the mayor is aware of what's going on.
What we may do too, Councilman, we may just go ahead and move forward. We can also ratify the firm.
I got you.
Yeah, I just thought about it. So maybe not, yeah, okay.
On a positive note, I I want to let y'all know I've reposted the firefighter application to the job board on Alabama Fire College website that they have for certified firefighters. I have received 2 applications from that posting. I've successfully hired 2 firefighters that will begin working tomorrow on A shift. One of them has to be recertified, as we discussed earlier. He's got a 3-month online course that he needs to complete, and all of his certification will be back in place. These 2 guys that I rehired actually worked for the fire department in the previous time. One of them kept his certification up to another department, so he's actually come back to the department. And I also, like I said, the other guys, once he gets recertified, he'll have all of his certifications in place, because he was a sergeant when he left the department. And he left the department back in 2012, so. I also have another certified firefighter possibly trying to get on in the next 2 weeks. That we, conducted an interview with. He just graduated in April, and I've asked him as well to discuss it with his other firefighters that he graduated with if they'd be interested in coming to work for Selma. And he said he put the word out there for it as well. So I do know that job board, I don't know why it was pulled down off of Selma, but I contacted Alabama Fire College and made sure it was put back up. So, we currently have 3 applicants that have passed the certified physical agility test, and there's approximately 9 applicants that applied for the firefighter position during our recent job fair at the convention center. There's a certified physical agility test they'll need to pass next Friday. It's going to be conducted in Demopolis, and hopefully out of those applicants we can put with the other 3 and get their drug screen backgrounds passed. And once that's completed, we can get them in an entry-level exam to get hired on at the fire department. We can actually put them on for a year. They just can't be involved in house fire details. There's a school that's going to begin in September, so that we can actually send those qualified applicants over to that fire college to get fully certified.
So if you get, what are the goals that you're playing now, saying if we get those guys that pass the test, that will make you have more.
That will give us more manpower on, at the department. Usually the way it works is if we send 10 guys to the CPAT, we're probably gonna get 4 out of it. That's just the usual, thing that happens with that. So, out of those 4 applicants, if they pass the drug screen and background checks, it kind of cuts it down even more if they don't pass it. But hopefully the applicants that we get taken in, can pass all that, and also the entry level exam. I am definitely working hard to increase the manpower needed for the fire department, and I hope to reopen Station 5 in the next coming months with these additional men, because once they graduate in November, we'll have more firefighters in the department. The last thing I want to speak to y'all about is our fire investigator division. It needs to be looked at. There's some changes that need to be addressed due to their exempt status. They have brought it to my attention, and I as well brought it to the mayor's attention, that they do not follow that criteria as an exempt status.
Is it that those fire marshals?
Those are the fire marshals.
Just state the law, so are you asking that it be revisited?
It needs to be that they're actually in their exempt status. It needs to
be changed to non-exempt. What needs to happen with them?
Why would it classify as exempt?
I do not know why. I just know that when I looked at it, and reviewed it and discussed it with the 3 fire marshals, they've actually looked at it, you know, per the FLSA labor laws. They do not meet the criteria
Who
for
has the authority to
exemption.
change it? Who has the authority to change it?
Correct.
Who has the authority to change it?
That's what I'm saying.
Would it have to
We
go
need
through the
address it.
personnel?
I'm not,
Because I think as far as with them being exempted, it was the personnel decision.
my understanding is that, I actually had to come to council or the fire investigators had to come to the council to see how that can actually be changed within their job description.
I can look at that, but I think that's a personnel decision, because I know with the fire investigator, we create the positions, but as far as with, you know, exempts and all that, that's not the personnel issue, but I can, you know, get the personnel part to see what we do. Also too, we have a club owners meeting at 6 o'clock. If you would give us about 10 to 15 more minutes, and then we'll go right into the club owners meeting. All right.
Last thing I have for the fire department, not to take up too much of y'all's time, but Squad 4 is, you know, we're actively getting more equipment in for that truck, and hopefully we'll have it fully out.
That's the new truck, huh? Is that the
Yes,
new
ma'am,
truck?
that's the new truck.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Selma?
I think we overbooked tonight with public safety. Next, we have Agent Dwight Brown, Resident Agent in Charge.
Mr. President, I'm gonna
Thank
be
you,
very
sir.
quick. I came here tonight to talk about the strategic Selma Fire Enforcement Task Force that has been established here. As Chief Carter says, we are actually investigating cases that of shootings from 2, 3, 4 years back. So it's taking time. And I said at the other public safety committee meeting, we need the citizens to talk. They're opening it up some, but that's the main purpose of me being here tonight. I want to give out the tip. We call it the federal tip line. We actually, if you see it, hear it, know it, report it. So I would like to give out the tip line if I can, sir.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
833-251-7867. And that's 833-251-7867. You can, when you make a report through the tip line, you can remain anonymous, or you can tell them that you want to meet with one of us. That's all I have.
Sounds good.
Thank you. You gonna stay over for the club owners meeting?
We have one of our task force members that's gonna stay with some club meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Now down to municipal court. Presiding judge, Haygood, and Judge.
I could just say we're good and be done.
No. Judge.
Council President, we, as we discussed in the past, again, implementing, you know, it's fully implemented, and we no longer accept cash for fines, costs, and that kind of thing. You know, we discussed in the past, environmental court was the reason we went to 6 dockets a month, and then when we have enough environmental cases, we will have an actual environmental court, 1:30 on a set time on Thursday,
1:30 on Thursday.
on one of the Thursday dockets, because that's the actual trial dockets.
I don't mean to interrupt, Your Honor, but those now, I think that's for, I mean, I'm still saying environmental court, but we have an A-post officer that can go, those can go back on the criminal docket. I don't know
Well,
if you were briefed on
we
that.
previously discussed this with council
Okay.
members at an earlier day. Maybe
Well,
even a
then-
year ago or so, and they wanted it to be on a separate.
Okay. Well, I know that in the past, remember, we didn't have a post-certified, so we weren't making
Yeah.
criminal charges of the environment.
Well, if it's a criminal charge, it goes on the criminal docket.
Well, I'm saying, we have, in those positions
Yeah.
now, we have police officers, we can make it as a criminal littering charge.
Yeah. Because-
Anyway,
But
I'll
I think
define it.
the intent was not to make it criminal. We didn't want to give those in violation of 12 inches of grass, trash and garbage be cooked in
Yeah.
criminal. So that was the purpose of the
Yeah, that's-
violation.
So we can look at,
That's the issue, and as you know, the city clerk Courtney, who does a fine job, will handle all that administratively. So if it needs to be a criminal charge, it can be. If it needs to be a ordinance violation,
Right.
then it can go on the environmental court, and most of what Councilman Soar's talking about is handled by your officer going by there and saying, you need to clean this up and take care of it, and they take care of it before it ever even gets to environmental court. If it needs to be a criminal littering charge, that would be a different.
I think that's where the confusion's coming in, Mr. President. I think we gotta get some clarity on it. In the past, that ordinance enforcement position has been within the police
Yeah.
department. It's my understanding it's not operating in the police department, or it hasn't been in the past. So we're gonna need some guidance from leadership.
We can meet about that.
but we said at this point in time, maybe 1/3, said 1/3 for,
If we have that case, you know, when we do, or if it's something that needs to be addressed
okay.
immediately, and, Judge Madison and I will meet and decide whether it's gonna be the same
Okay.
judge and handle the administrative part of it.
Well, at least we do have a venue and a time for the municipal,
We have-
environmental court.
We have court every Thursday.
But there lies your problem. There's no citation being written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, have you all ever thought about maybe we may have to have somebody part-time, maybe evening environmental court? Some maybe.
We don't have any.
We don't have any cases? Okay.
That's why we have,
But if
you know,
if we will enforce our ordinance, you will.
You will have, yeah.
you have, well, I welcome it.
Okay. That's something we can look at.
I'm
though.
through by 10:30 every Thursday. Now, on Tuesdays, it's like, the way it's set up, you come in on the Tuesday docket, and you enter your plea for misdemeanor, and then if you want to try to work it out, and then guilty plea, you meet with the prosecutor. If you have an attorney, your attorney meets with the prosecutor, and we take your plea. If you want to try, we set it over to a Thursday date, so you will have plenty of time to have your case heard, and the citizens feel like they're receiving justice. And the city can feel like they're receiving justice, and due process is being followed. And plus, we handle most of the traffic tickets on a Tuesday. And, it's running fairly smooth, and even with just two magistrates right now. So that gets, the next issue is the same issue we had continuing, that'd be something that I can address with the chief too, it's just the same, the FTA issue, and that gets back to his roadblock, traffic stop, type thing, that picks up a lot of that. And, it's just a manpower issue, we figured out how we're gonna go about, we've talked about it before, how we're gonna go about going out and picking up these people that are FTA. And, I think everything else runs pretty smooth. Yeah.
Major, go ahead.
So what your bitch warrants numbers look like?
Oh my gosh. Can be as high as 70% on somebody. And, with the manpower issues and the finance issues and all the things that go into it, that's where the problem comes in. When we issue the warrant, court takes them to E911, and they go in the system immediately. The step Judge Madison and I are trying to implement the next step to where we actually go out and start finding these folks.
Judge Madison, anything you would like to interject?
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for inviting us, both judges here. It's a pleasure to see public safety take the rightful place it deserves as primary concern to the council, chief, feds, State Bureau of Investigation, everybody else. I mean that sincerely, because sometimes the public doesn't know what's happening. I heard, I think, Councilwoman Thomas mentioned a concern of the communities about cold cases and just needing to feel that things have not been pushed to the side and forgotten, and that's important. Judge Hager covered most of what I would like to say. I just want to point out one or two other things. The time frame of my being on the bench now was February of last year, so it's been just over a year, about 15 months. And I went from prosecuting to judge, but some people forget that before I was a prosecutor, I was a defense attorney. So it's been a very interesting transition for me over the past year and a half to 4 years, from defense attorney to prosecutor to judge. And what I've seen is that the thing that matters the most is what we've tried to relate, and maybe have not done a good enough job of promoting either, or publicizing either, that nothing changes as a defense attorney, prosecutor, or judge when it comes to procedural due process and substantive law. That has to control everything we do in the courtroom, and as it relates to the municipal court. We're also a third branch of the city government. I think some people forget that. I don't know who they think we work for. We obviously report to the mayor as employees, but the council appointed us, so we're beholden to both. And more importantly, the citizens of Selma, Alabama. And I never forget that, because I live here. My wife lives here. She works here. She works as a liaison from public health, from mental health, to the Selma City and Dallas County school system. She works with school children on a daily basis. So we're deeply invested in the community. I was glad to hear too the mental health comments made, because what I see, and I believe Judge Hager will echo this, in city court on a weekly, monthly basis, is more issues with conflict resolution, mental health, and substance use disorder than anything else. They affect everything we do in court every time we get on the bench. Conflict resolution. People have a hard time resolving conflict. And it's not just Selma. There's an increase in conflict nationally, if not worldwide. Some of it connected to the military, some of it paramilitary, some of it just families having problems, solving problems. And therefore, I'm glad not only to hear the mental health issues, but I would like to see homelessness and substance use disorder added to the mix of the level of mental health problems affecting the courts and the community safety.
Thank you, Judge Madison. All right, before we make the transition from the public safety meeting to the club owners meeting, are there any comments that Councilwoman Thomas you have?
No.
Councilman Shaw?
I think it's been a very productive meeting, and I appreciate your leadership.
Thank you, sir. All right, Chief?
Just something on the agenda that we need to think about in the future is we're coming up on the end of the jail contract. And I know that's a major ordeal, but I want to make sure it's on everyone's radar screen.
Yeah, I have a meeting with Judge
Okay.
and the sheriff on next week. It's supposed to be next week, but on next week.
Could the lead in that meeting be that rather than tying us down to a multi-year contract?
Month to month.
Month to month.
Yeah.
I did, yeah. All right. Mr. Blackman, you have the last question. Then we're going.
Two quick questions. I talked to Chief Carter about already on the SROs. I think it's very important that we have SROs. I think the training needs to be there, and I'm all for arming teachers if it needs to be. My problem is that we want to make sure that when these officers from the fast access team get there, that any potential law-abiding citizen that happens to be armed inside that building, which you can be armed under law inside that building, is not subjected to rifles pointed at them and all like that. And I say that because people will ask, well, why would you want to be armed in that school? Well, it took 10 minutes the other day at a second shot, that's 600 rounds. Potentially 17, 18, 2,000 rounds could have been fired in that 10 minutes. A law-abiding citizen who's legally available there should not be face down at the point of a rifle barrel by an officer who's getting there in an overamped up situation. The second thing that I like to address is the Community Citizens Review Board. I live a rock's throw outside of that, and most of you know that I'm up here. I spend many hours up here dealing with what goes on in the city, know pretty much what goes on. I would like to be a part of that as a representative between the lawful people and the others. And me and the chief have spoke about that in that.
And I don't know, David, I don't know what all the makeup will be in the resolution, but in the past, we have talked about the chief getting an appointment as well. If that doesn't get worked out, I think I can help resolve that.
Thank y'all very much.
All right. Anything else?
I have one question for Chief Collier. As a former SRO, I applaud you going in that direction. Please don't get caught up in saying, we've got an SRO, but now we can take him and put him out on the road. They got to, they're not the buddies, they're not the pals, they're not the friends of the students. They're mentors, they're teachers. And that's one thing I really hope that the training will emphasize that. The middle school also is great. Have you considered, and I know, been to these meetings, I'm going to throw it at you, have you considered an officer-friendly program to hit them in the elementary school? Sears and Roebuck is the premier officer-friendly program. And they also incorporate within that the great program and some of the other ones. Now, my material is dated, so there probably is some newer opportunities. But to catch the little wee ones, to know the man in uniform is not an enemy, but he's your friend.
Detective Calvin handles a lot of that through PALS. She's getting towards the end of her career, so that may be the move in the future. So that may be something we can discuss offline. And I'm familiar with that. On the SRO part, David, just so we can openly say it, we're going to train here. I'm open to having family carry or open out. One of the groups come in.
I'm associated with a bunch, so.
All right, and one of the groups come in and provide that.
Thank you.
Can you stand for the meeting?
Yes, sir.